Let's go to the next question. Question number 051. Senator Cherargei, can you ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I raise pass 1 to Standing Order 51C.
I will give you the opportunity. Let them proceed with the...
Mr. Speaker, I raise under Standing Order 51C 6. A Cabinet Secretary shall appear in person on the day of which the respective question is listed for response. 1 shall respond to the question. That is B. C may, with the permission of Speaker, make a statement. Mr. Speaker, I'm raising on Standing Order 51C6 because, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what happens when a Cabinet Secretary comes with a half-baked answer or a kindergarten-like answer against the responses that they, and it is Mr. Speaker, in the response, he has indicated that they are attached. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Using unparliamentary language.
Okay, when he comes with unsatisfactory answer, because the response I have received, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is no list attached. And even in the response, I was given not within 24 hours that you have...
Can you ask your question, then you prosecute your issues first?
Okay, Mr. Speaker, but I want to register my displeasure by that response. But let me ask the question and you'll realize, and the members will realize, Mr. Speaker, that no justice was done to this question. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 051 on the following. To ask the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection. 1, what are the roles of National Employment Authority, NEA, in the recruitment of Kenyans seeking job opportunities in foreign countries? And could the Cabinet Secretary state the requirements to be met by recruitment agency permitted to operate by NEA in the country? B, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of recruitment agencies cleared by National Employment Authority, and what steps are used to ensure that all companies registered under National Employment Authority Integrated Management System, NEMIS, are monitored and regulated? Mr. Speaker, part C, could the Cabinet Secretary also provide a list of Kenyans who have successfully applied for jobs in the diaspora following the numerous agreements between Kenya, for example, like the other day with Germany and other nations, and including the countries that are deployed to avoid misinformation? Mr. Speaker, finally, what is the status of the investigations into the operations of Messrs. Worth Star Africa Limited, an agency operated by one Pastor James Wanjohi that reportedly defrauded Kenyans over Kenyan shillings 600 million with a promise to assist them to secure jobs abroad? And could the Cabinet Secretary state the plans, if any, to compensate these victims, the Speaker? I thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Cherargei, for your question. The role of the National Employment Authority in recruitment of Kenyans for jobs in the diaspora is well stated in our documents. It is, and I'm going to go through them quickly, to advise on the formulation of employment policies and strategies for national and county governments, facilitate the employment placement of job seekers internationally, and facilitate the implementation of national policies on employment. There is also a secretariat to the vetting committee, licensing and accreditation of private employment agencies, regulation of the activities of private employment agencies, collection, analysis, and dissemination of labor market information, building the capacities of private employment agencies, sensitizing and advising job seekers, handling complaints from job seekers, promoting ethical recruitment, and cancelling the registrations of an employment agency that fails to observe the provisions of the existing laws and regulations. The requirements to be met by recruitment agency to be permitted to be operated by NEA is in our website, which is www.neaims.go.ke. But I've also listed them here for Senator Cherargei. There's an application letter for registration, a certified copy of the certificate of incorporation as a limited company, company articles and memorandum of association. Company CR2 for the current year must have a minimum share capital of 5 million shillings, a copy of a county government license, show that you are operating legally, company tax compliance certificate for the current year, registered and fully equipped physical office with the prescribed sizes. A company director must also submit a copy of his or her or their IDs, 2 passport size photos, current police clearance certificate, a valid work permit in case of any foreign director, certified academic certificates, which must be certified by the Directorate of Quality Assurance of the Ministry of Education. Company manager must also submit the following documents: a degree certificate in business-related field from a recognized university in Kenya, that is also certified by the Quality Assurance of the Ministry of Education, an appointment letter to work for that company with clear terms, and a copy of an ID. Mr. Speaker, it is very clear that the process is heavy, that you really need to qualify. And these are very many requirements. You need to qualify because we need people who are in this industry and we need people who are valid. That's why we ask all these questions, all these documents, including a visiting of the space where they work to ensure that it is not a briefcase company. And then you are given your document. The second question about vetting by Interministerial Vetting Committee. An interministerial committee vets all private employment agencies seeking registration and renewal of licenses. It consists of the ministry responsible for labor, immigration, internal security, foreign affairs, and the AG. During the vetting, the applications made by private employment are looked at, and making the independent recommendations approval or non-approval is also deliberated. In other words, it is not enough for you just to provide the documents. It's not enough that you qualify. Yes, we take you one step further. Yes, you may qualify on paper, but should you, in terms of national intelligence, are you a crook? You know, have you been bad somewhere else? Are you working with other people? Are you, we go further to ensure that the vetting weeds out the bad people. And the vetting, from what I've learned, is that out of the people vetted, about 30 to 40% never qualify, even though they had the documents. So it is a real operation to ensure that we get the best. So the government here does its job. After approval, you pay a full registration fee, and then you have to be a member of a recognized association of private employment agencies, because we need somebody also to keep on monitoring you, so that when you go rogue, they're able to tell us. And then you execute 1.5 million security bond to the bank. This is for people who are engaging in foreign recruitment. Mr. Speaker, sir, tomorrow, sidetrack just to add to this, I'll be holding a meeting, a follow-up meeting with the recruitment agencies that recruit for people in Kenya and mostly for overseas. We had a meeting about 2.5 to 3 weeks ago where we deliberated about how we can work together. How do we cut the bureaucracy? How do we identify the crooks? Where is the problem? How do we reform National Employment Agency? How do we reform the National Training Institute, NITA? How do we reform the Labor Ministry to ensure that it is current in terms of the needs of the market? And so we've been holding meetings, and even after this session, I'm going to hold a meeting with my staff to deliberate on new regulations and new policies that we will announce tomorrow after we've had this public participation with a team to streamline this industry, to toa wakora, and to ensure that it is efficient. The list of recruitment agencies cleared to operate by NEA can also be found in our nims.go.ke. It is current. Some fall out every day, some are added every day. So if I can give you a list today, and tomorrow you say, how come this company is no longer in the list, or how come this company, because it is alive. As we sit here, there are others being onboarded, the others being removed. And it even shows you the ones that the licenses have expired and who are in the process of renewing. One of the things that I'm going to announce tomorrow is about the duration of time of the renewals. The country has been crying, the community has been crying that the renewal of every year doesn't work very well. because by the time you organize yourself to get people to organize, take them abroad, your time is gone. So we are going to look at how we can extend the time and how to make it easier for people to be able to register and work within the system. The question number C, the list of Kenyans who have successfully applied for jobs in diaspora, including the countries they are deployed. We have attached a list, and it's presented here, Cabinet, of the list of the Kenyans, and we hope that the list will grow now that we are trying to make this as efficient as possible from the Ministry of Labour. The status of investigation to the operation of Miss Worth Start Africa Limited. This is a case being handled by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. I will be holding a meeting with the senior leadership of the DCI. They told me that they are working with close to 1,000 cases of fraud, of Kenyans who have been defrauded, and action will be taken. On the supplementary question that was asked by Sen.Cherargei whether the ministry will compensate the victims, the ministry does not engage in defrauding. But the person who defrauds, if they are found guilty, arrested, charged, if they are found guilty, then I think part of the requirement will be for their assets to be taken and compensation to be done, not just for them just to serve time, but they need to repay back the money that they stole from innocent Kenyans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I submit.
Senator Cherargei, do you have any supplementary question?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Not point of order, but it should go on record that the Cabinet Secretary is misleading the House. You know why? The list is saying he has filed through the Secretariat. It's not there. So why is he playing with the minds of Kenyans? Mr. Speaker, we are serious people. We don't wake up here to come and joke around. If the CS cannot take his work seriously, Mr. Speaker, he should be sanctioned, because the issue Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, have been conned daily by fake recruitment agencies, Mr. Speaker. So I find it a disrespect to this House that a whole Cabinet Secretary, who is not new, to come before the Senate and mislead the House, to mislead people who have sat even in Cabinet, including Senator Onyonga, who was Assistant Minister, Mr. Speaker. Is it even fair? The Cabinet Secretary must, Mr. Speaker, apologize to this House for lying, Mr. Speaker, not lying, for misrepresenting, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Cherargei,
Number two, Mr. Speaker.
Just have your seat.
Okay.
For some communication. The Secretariat is following up on this list to check whether it was attached or not. So before you make those allegations, let us first confirm. You know, Senate is House of Records. We confirm first, and then you can maybe comment. But what I want to do is to ask the Secretary to confirm whether this list was attached, and also your officers also to counter-check whether they did it. But meanwhile, you can ask your supplementary questions.
Mr. Speaker, and you have to note that unless you struck off the answered, because in his response, the CS says he has attached. So I hope the Secretariat will strike out that part of the answer so that we don't mislead Kenyans. One question so that I allow other colleagues, I'll come later for mine. Mr. Speaker, you agree with me, and this is my first supplementary question. No wonder Kenyans are conned daily. Because if the Cabinet Secretary cannot provide a list of cleared recruitment agencies in the country by telling Kenyans to go to website, how will be somebody in Machakos, somewhere in Tala, have an internet? If the CS could come and table the list of all recruitment agencies, those who have been blacklisted, is it hard, Mr. Speaker? How will his grandmother somewhere in Makweni in Wote know from where Mr. Kafuluka comes from, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, it must be even my own grandmother somewhere in Nandi, Mr. Speaker, even in Bomet, how can they go to website? No wonder, Mr. Speaker, everybody is gone. Can the CS, Mr. Speaker, even in Meru where you come from, can the CS table the agencies that have been cleared to do recruitment, that have been blacklisted, Mr. Speaker, that are pending clearance? Then I can have satisfaction of my response to us. Otherwise, if it doesn't table, Mr. Speaker, then we are gerrymandering with the lives of Kenyans.
Senator Cherargei, you know the one went in Egypt a long time ago. And that is why I think in that spirit, the CS is maybe requesting you to just click on the website and get the list. Because the world has gone digital on so many things. Do you have a smartphone with you? Do you have a smartphone? We can test this website, whether it is working. No, I've just asked you a question when is it.
See, I thought I should go on record. Mr. Speaker, this is not about Cherargei, it's about the ordinary Kenyans in Kibra who don't have smartphones. Mr. Speaker, how many Kenyans do they have smartphones?
Senator
Even
Cherargei.
in Meru itself.
Sen.Cherargei,
It might be 1%.
Because this is your question. I'm just asking whether you attempted even to click on the website. Did you try?
Is I am asking on behalf of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker.
On, Senator
It is
Onyonk.
the cabinet minister, Mr. Speaker, to provide information. Even in Nandi, the people who can access smartphones across the country are less than 1%, Mr. Speaker. So it is not fair, Mr. Speaker, that you allow the CS to slide with.
No, the CS will answer your question, but I was just asking you a supplementary.
No,
question
I can
also
prove, yes, but
whether it
Mr.
is
Speaker,
working,
I
because
didn't
I
get that
wanted to
information
confirm.
because when you go to website of NEA,
As the
there is
chair-
no recruitment that has been blacklisted, that is pending approval, that is functional, including first choice recruitment agency, the worldwide, Mr. Speaker.
Okay,
So the point,
okay.
Mr. Speaker, we are asking these questions on behalf of Kenyans. I'm not asking on behalf of Cherargei or my family or my
Have
other
your seat.
interests.
Have your seat. But also, Senator Cherargei, don't you know that also Kenyans would like to know whether you are able to use internet? Waziri, respond to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'd like to say that as far as I know with my records, I signed the list. I attached it, and it was delivered to Parliament. We'll follow up with my staff to see whether the people did the right thing. So I cannot say it is attached if it is not attached. It was part of my answer. It was delivered. And so we'll check. If there's any misnomer, my apologies, it will be given, but I believe the list is provided because I looked at the list, I signed it myself, and got it attached. Number two, Mr. Speaker, it is important, I want to say two things. One, Kenyans who are applying for jobs, applying for a job is a full-time job. If you want to apply for a job and you want to go and work in India, in Turkey, in Saudi Arabia, in many countries, if you're applying for a job, you do research about the job from wherever you are. And you may not have a smartphone, but you're a young man, and the Gen Zs who are applying for this, they have access. They can talk to somebody with a smartphone, and they can be able to look. What I want to tell Kenyans is this: be very careful about recruitment agencies that come to your village and tell you they're recruiting you and they want you to send you to overseas, and that you need to pay them some money to process your documents. That is why we have this list that is alive. And I know paper is important because the list I may even give you, the list I've given you on paper, has already changed because it is live. And in the words of US presidential candidate Kamala Harris, we are not going back. We have to move forward with technology. We can't continue going back on paper. We need to move forward with technology. So I do understand the challenges that we are facing. That is why the government is rolling out the digital network that is going to encompass basically every village in our country where there are schools, and so that we ensure that people can be connected and you can actually log in for free and be able to check. So I urge Kenyans, and they can talk to their leaders, to their senators, and I like the spirit Senator Cherargei has in protecting his people. Talk to your senator, talk to your MCA, say this person has recruited me. Are they valid? So we can double check so that you are not conned. The other thing that I'm doing is that I want to work with the agencies in a way that if the agency, because the agencies are being paid a fee, a commission, that wherever it is possible, which should be about 90% of the time, they should not charge a Kenyan for any processing fee. So they absorb that as part of their cost, so that Kenyans are not defrauded, being told, pay this amount of money, we'll take you overseas. Unauza shamba, unauza gari, unauza all your savings, you put them there, and then you find the person is fake. So we want to get into a system whereby let them get access to financing. get their people all sorted, and then they'll be paid their fee. So it's a service they're providing. They don't need to charge the Kenyans. So we're working through that system to ensure that people get their right. So I urge leaders in this country to please also support us in ensuring we identify rogue ones. And the best way is to go into the internet, look at that live link, which keeps on changing every hour, to ensure that that person maybe say they are there, by a day or two, they have been removed. So keep on checking before you engage and sign documents. I submit, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Kadri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question to the CS is whether to confirm that the government has appropriate bilateral agreements that have safeguarded the rights of all workers being recruited to go and work abroad, in particular noting that a number of very vulnerable workers have ended up abroad and come back in coffins, and most of those are not the kind of person you seem to have in mind who goes to a website or who has a smartphone that would actually do the research that you are thinking of. Can we have copies of these bilateral agreements submitted to ensure that it has clauses that protect against malpractices, including retainment of passports of workers who go abroad, including retention of their salaries for months on end in the name of paying for their air tickets and paying for the agency fees? I would want to see how the government has protected. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to know whether the ministry has set aside a budget to actually sensitize those who cannot access websites and the lot that I'm speaking about by discussing these issues on radios, listing the genuine and the not genuine agents in order for the ordinary, desperate girl in the far-flung village in Dori who wants to go and work in Saudi Arabia is able to know that they are being conned.
Okay, yes.
Thank you, Madam Senator, for that brilliant question. It's a very, very good question. One of the things that we are doing, and the reforms that I'm bringing that we'll be announcing tomorrow, is a new way of training. We'll ensure that anybody going, and especially to some of these countries where these issues are, and they should undergo a training. And during the training, they'll be empowered. They'll be empowered with information about what their rights are. Your passport is yours. You should never give your passport to anybody else. You give your passport maybe to the agent as they are processing, but they give it back to you before you leave the country. Nobody should hold your passport. Nobody should hold your documents. We are going to empower them on how to get in touch with Kenyan government officials of how to protect for their rights so that they're empowered. I'm going to ensure that the system is streamlined, that before anybody leaves our country to go get a job, they know they can count on this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the question about the budget to sensitize, I'd like to say I'm even going to take it a step further. We can't be operating from Nairobi. Kenya is not Nairobi. I'm working on a program to go and visit basically all the constituencies, all the counties to start with, where we will have meetings with agents, with jobs, with programs of enlightening Kenyans, working with county governments, but also mostly with members of parliament, so that we can be able to empower Kenyans and give them the information. And we'll be able to communicate to media and vernacular stations. We'll be able to tell the stories that we are telling so that people are aware. And I'll even go a step further with the guidance given, whereby we are going to run adverts and communication programs to empower Kenyans. Not only about the challenges they face, but also of the various opportunities. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm currently looking at it this way. When I was on our way back from Germany, I met a number of Kenyans at an airport in the Middle East, and they are working, security guards, others were working in hospitality. Then when I was there, I met a Kenyan who was coming back, said he works in that country as an engineer. So the jobs you're talking about are not just the household jobs that people talk about. We are talking about a data bank of hundreds of thousands of jobs that we want to accumulate for people who are journalists, for doctors, nurses. We have a demand for nurses, but we realize that nurses don't even know that they are needed, and we are working on all this. There's a question I want to, Mr. Speaker, to reply, and that is the issue of depositing all our agreements. I'm going to ensure that this House has all those labor agreements so that you can also be able to scrutinize them. We are going a step further in our agreements. We are trying to ensure that our qualifications match those qualifications of those countries so that they don't have to go and retrain again, so that our job our qualifications are accepted automatically. We're also making sure that they are protected by immigration, and interior governments over there from harassment and also from being deported without being heard. So we are looking at all those rights. So we've learned our lesson over the last few years. I'm quite lucky, and I thank the President for putting me in this docket, because the experience I garnered as a Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora is really coming in handy, because these are not new things to me. Now I'm in the right ministry to correct all the problems that have been going on. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Senator Mofai.
The mic is defective. It's working. These innovations, Madam Speaker, I want to revisit the very first question that the CS was interrogating, and I want to know what is his ministry doing to make sure that the physically challenged people, in some cultures, Honorable Madam Speaker, these people face some cultural stigma, such that they don't even come out to register for benefits, maybe in the government. What initiative is the ministry trying to undertake to make sure that these people are whipped into registering so that they can benefit from your ministry? Number two, Honorable Speaker, we have seen very old people travel to far-flung places in search of these benefits. What is the ministry doing to make sure that they devolve these services very close to the people who are supposed to benefit from those services? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
CS, you can respond.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think our Honourable Senator came a bit just got in. We've already tackled this issue. And I'll repeat myself, we talked about the physically challenged and how we are bringing them all aboard and how their families, and we've got teams on the ground. And I requested you that if a member of parliament knows somebody who is not in the system, not only the disabled, but also other vulnerable, children and the aged, to let me know, and we're going to handle. We had a big discussion, lasted quite a while on that issue. On the other one about the far-flung, I think I lost the final question about people far-flung places. I already made an announcement right here, and I announced a new policy that from December 1st, we are going digital. They'll get their money on their phone. So we had a discussion about that earlier before you came. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Onyonka. As Senator Onyonka is speaking, I'd request Senator Wafula to come in so that we move on to the next question.
Thank you.
Senator Onyonka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. CS, Madam Speaker, I would like you to protect me because my colleagues seem to be
Order,
consulting.
honorable members, can we hear Senator Onyonka in silence, please?
Thank you. CS, I am happy to see you here today because I know you as a friend of mine and somebody I've worked with before.